Today we have Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne, a classic work of science fiction, classic literature, some may call it. 1864 is when this book was published. So we have a good 160 odd years of reading this book, talking about it, adapting it. Many of you will know about this book. So this might be for those viewers who have either read it or who are just interested in general science fiction history, because I don't think it's a new thing that people are hopping on the train to do reviews of Jules Verne works. But I felt like this was necessary when I was building my list of 25 books that I was going to read for my challenge. Much like War of the Worlds and Foundation, there were just works of science fiction that I felt like had to kind of be on the list, or at least writers that had to be on the list. And this is one of the more famous books that predates modern science fiction, that even predates the Golden Age, and just has a lot of influence on a lot of really famous works. I was reading up a little bit on the book and on its history, and it influenced Edgar Rice Burroughs, who many of you know, J.R.R. Tolkien and The Hobbit, and just had a lot of it has a lot of cultural significance too. I think just the overall curiosity of people and their adventurous spirits in a time like 1860. This really propelled that imaginative spirit forward at the time that it was written, and I think, for what it's worth, still holds up today. It has its quirks, it has its moments of being of showing its age, but overall, I'm really glad I read this. Um, where to start? I think I'll just give you a rundown of the plot, but most of you are probably at least familiar with the premise as it's said in the title. They go to the center of the Earth. But you have a professor of geology, I believe, in Otto Liedenbrock, I think is how you pronounce it. You have his nephew Axel, who he kind of ropes into going on this adventure with him. And then you have their Icelandic guide, Hans. So those are the three main characters. The first two of which are kind of this duo, this fun duo that really made me feel like it was Marty McFly and Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Let me know if anybody else, if they've read this and that gives any kind of context to their relationship and to uh, the pairing of those two, the duo. But it just did feel like so much Liedenbrock was great Scott, and Axel was just Marty kind of looking around like, what have I gotten myself into? So I don't know. That charmed me throughout the reading of this because I envisioned those two characters almost going on an adventure like this. Um, so for what it's worth, that sets the characters of the book pretty much. There's not really anybody else. Um, Axel does have like this infatuation with this woman, this girl he likes named was it Gruben? Gruben? I don't know. German, a German girl that he really adores and thinks of throughout their journey. But overall, they he has Liedenbrock has this text which he decodes, and there's like this famous explorer that kind of gives them a hint of, follow this volcano and it'll lead you to the center of the earth. And he's, great Scott, I need to go. I don't know why it's like an Australian accent I'm doing, but anyway, he goes to the center of the earth with Axel, and it's not spoiling anything, obviously, that's in the title, but they get on these various little hijinks throughout their journey, which are really um, like they're geologically accurate. And I'm not some geology expert, don't get me wrong, but topographical um, I don't know if that's the right way to use that word, but it talks a lot about the landscape. So if you've read Tolkien, if you've read things like that, that talk about the landscape and about journeying into mountains and into, there's subterranean rivers and things of that nature, like a lot of description language of where they are and what they're seeing. And so it becomes it becomes kind of a tourist tale, so to speak, where you are kind of in Axel's shoes, following Dr. Liedenbrock as he's trying to find the center of the earth. And so they kind of follow the clues, they follow the various like kind of breadcrumbs left by this famous explorer. I think his name was it Saknussemm? Let me see if I can find it. It's at the very beginning. He's just Liedenbrock is so overjoyed about this guy leaving him messages. So, yeah, Arne Saknussemm, an Icelandic 16th century explorer is what that said. And so he just we see Dr. Liedenbrock very determined to go on this voyage. Axel very um, he has a very endearing quality towards his uncle, where he clearly loves his uncle, and he knows that he kind of needs to support him in this venture, because otherwise his uncle's going to go off and get himself killed. So the dangers that arise are very this isn't a monster myth where you're going to find a whole bunch of wild aliens in the middle of Earth and what that kind of thing. It's a very realistic story in a very fantastical way, if that makes sense. Sorry, it's really hot out here, and the bugs are going crazy because we are almost to August, and it's hot and humid. So I was trying to get this video recorded at least in the evening times when, I don't know, the sun's not super boiling hot. But you probably just heard the AC kick on. That's constant right now. So we'll see if I can get this done before I roast out here. But that's the overall plot, I would say. They contract this man named Hans to guide them, since he's Icelandic. And Hans is this kind of quiet, stoic, big, strong man who helps lead them, do some of the he carries their packs and whatnot, or that kind of thing. And so there's just a lot of adventure to it. It's a classic adventure tale, and one that it was fun, charming. The writing style isn't super flamboyant or colorful. It's ahead of its time. I will say that. I think this, compared to a lot of modern science fiction, still has greater depth. I hate to be that kind of person that just casts away modern science fiction, but I can see why this book gets still gets talked about, still gets, there was a movie made, I guess it's been a little while, 20 years, 15, 20 years since it's been made, but it still receives critical praise and high praise from people, because it's written well, and Verne was somebody who just, if you want to make a Mount Rushmore of science fiction authors, I don't know if you'd put him on there necessarily, because he doesn't have he doesn't throw around the weight of some of the other ones who have come since then, but he helped shape the genre with books like this. And I feel it was, one, my duty to read it, because it's an important book historically, but also two, like, I wanted to stretch myself a little bit and get outside of the just 1950 to like 1980 time period, and this was way before then. So much like War of the Worlds, I approached it with that kind of lens, and I was cheerfully surprised that it holds up well. I don't really, I guess I'll section this off at spoilers, so that way, if you haven't read it, I can't believe I'm saying spoilers for a book that's 160, 170 years old, but I feel it's fair to you that I don't spoil it if you've made it this far and you would like to read this book without having any of the plot points spoiled. But it's not necessarily a book for its mystery and it's intrigue. It's mainly meant as an experience. So you've been warned. It's funny. Um, there's a scene where they run out of water, and Axel's like delirious with dehydration, and he's angry at Liedenbrock, his uncle, for not planning the water situation more effectively. But Liedenbrock's just kind of one track mind. Like he is, I need to find this passageway to the center of the earth. And so they don't plan for water, but Hans ingeniously finds a subterranean river and is able to um, get them some fresh water. That scene was the first, I think, and that we're like halfway through the book at this point, if I remember correctly. It's the first time in the book where I really felt a sense of like um, stakes. It felt up to that point that it was very safe and whimsical and fun, and like I didn't think that any of the characters were in real danger until that point, so I wasn't sure. I was like, we're not going to lose Axel at this point in the book, but I didn't know for sure, and so that did build some anticipation for the end, which I enjoyed. There, when they reach the center of the earth and they find the like subterranean ocean, I thought that was really just a cool visual. They take a raft across, trying to find the other side, which I don't think they arrive at, if I remember right. They have to like go back, but they find like animals, giant dinosaur type, you know, water creatures, which was very just a cool. It was just a cool scene, and talk about, you know, the adventure exploration type of story. It was really cool to see that. I thought that was a fun kind of payoff at the end, near the end. And so they find themselves, I think, kind of drowned in this pool, if I remember right, that they descend for a long way on their raft, and they're like, we're going even deeper into the earth. How will we ever make it back? And they find a volcanic exit that spews them out into Italy. And I thought that was like a fun, realistic-ish way of ending the journey, where they wouldn't just perish in that place, because they do find a body. And I can't remember if it's Saknussemm the Explorer. I don't think it is. No, it must have been. No, because he made it out, I think. I'm misremembering that portion of it, but I believe they found a human body along with some remains of like dinosaur bones and whatnot, mastodons, pterodactyls, you know. And so uh, clearly there's an element of danger here, and so it was cool to see. Again, Verne kind of set some stakes of like, they're not completely safe. Let's see how they get out of this one. And to be spewed out by a volcano, like it sets some modern day tropes um, of action adventure stories that I just really do think came from either this book or ones, you know, that followed shortly after, and were influential. But I hope I didn't bore you to death. This book is not a new and fresh and exciting read as far as like BookTube, but I think you guys on the channel that watch this kind of content will appreciate at least what this book did for the genre that we so love in science fiction. And I'm like I guess not. I'm fond of this copy of the book. It's a great, really, really in good shape ace, with kind of a beautiful cover, and it's that pocket square, you know, 45-cent edition that is, other than this little ding right here and a little bit of wear, like it's in wonderful condition. It was just a fun book to read, and I'm glad I read it. I'm also glad that this was, I think, I could be wrong. This was on the second half of my list, so I had already had some experience with things like War of the Worlds, which I already mentioned, but having a little bit of prior experience with some older works of science fiction, and I had gotten my feet wet in my reading at that point, it made this reading at times a little bit dull, because it wasn't as fantastical as a PKD or as a Stanislaw Lem or something like that, you know, but dull meaning like it wasn't like evocative. The prose weren't as evocative as other books. It wasn't as psychedelically weird and whatnot as some other books I read, but the the story itself was a fun read, and it was positioned well in my list of 25 where I could appreciate it and really like understand what roots that it put down for the formation of science fiction again. So yeah, mostly this was just a video to let you know, like obviously I'm covering all 25 books on this list I did, but to let you know that this book does hold up. It's a wonderful, fun tale, and if nothing else, read it and go into it with that imagery that I put in your head of Doc Brown and Marty McFly from Back to the Future. It makes their Axel and Liedenbrock's characters a joy once you kind of see them as that visual. And I don't mean that to like uh, what's the character caricaturize or make fun of it and kind of, I just mean like that's the energy I got, and that was very funny at times to read. So anyway, that's all I got for this one. I appreciate you watching. As always, this, I can't remember, like I said, what number in the 25 this is, but I'm working my way through it, and I will have more to come. Some exciting ones coming up, but stay tuned for those. And yeah, appreciate you watching as always. That's been Journey to the Center of the Earth. I will see you in the next one.